welcome to Soul Symbols. My name is Shelley. I'm a writer, an astrologer, and a card reader, and I'd like to welcome you to my channel. Happy Tuesday. It's How to Tarot Tuesday, and what that is it's a weekly blog post where I go ahead and I post a video that talks about one of the 78 card tarot. What I do is I choose from 3 images that I think best represents the card in question. The beginning of the video talks about the meaning and the symbols of the card, and then later we go ahead and you, the viewer, would choose from one of 3 tarot decks. The tarot decks are chosen based on the symbolism of the card in question. You go ahead and choose your deck, and we'll go ahead and see how this card manifests in your life. Today we are continuing with the Pentacle suit, and we are talking about a very practical and paradoxical card. We are talking about the Six of Pentacles. If you ever want to jump straight to your reading, the timestamps are in the description box below, as are the names and the authors of the decks that I use. Today, when we get into your actual reading, I will be clarifying using the Mystical Kipper deck, which is by the A.G. Mueller Publishing Company. The A.G. Mueller Company is the same company that publishes my Rider-Waite-Smith deck, which is always the first deck that I use in my How to Tarot, because it's the Rider-Waite-Smith. It's the traditional tarot deck that's used by most tarot readers. But I just, the images in the Kipper Mystical is, the Mystical Kipper is, it's a little bit more cartoonish. It is very similar to our middle deck, but it's kind of, it is a little bit like my Gypsy Oracle, where it gives kind of descriptors. And with this card in particular, I thought it would be an excellent deck to go with the description, or just to kind of help flesh out the reading. And again, if you ever want to skip straight to it, the timestamp is in the description box below. So let's go ahead and jump right in. In the Six of Pentacles, this card has always been a little bit of a mystery to me. It has a lot of meaning, and it's very dual. It has a duality to it that is very complex. You see a man who is very immaculately dressed. He looks like a wealthy person. He doesn't look like royalty, but he definitely looks like someone who is affluent. Above his head, you have 3 pentacles that kind of favor one side, and then you have 2 pentacles that favor another side. But in his hands, he has a scale that seems to be weighing, and the scales are equally balanced. And to the left side, or to the one side underneath the 3 pentacles, you see someone who is receiving money, and on the other side you see someone who is waiting, and they seem to be equally, worthy of receiving funds, but they are not receiving money yet, right? You see someone still kind of waiting. They do kind of look like they're on a platform of some sort. And in the background, you kind of see a cityscape that's in the background. So just like all of the Pentacle suit, the Six of Pentacles is a very practical card. It definitely still means money. It means the exchange of something physical. It definitely can mean something work-related or something related to finances. But the duality of this card, and it being a 6, when you look at the 6 is kind of, when you think about 6 divided in half, you get 3, right? And the number 6 major arcana is the Lovers, which is 2 people, right? It's kind of like a balance of 2 people. And when you see scales, you kind of think of justice, right? Which is kind of the balancing of the making fair of a situation, right? And so when you see the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith, you kind of think of, there is definitely kind of a balance that you see there. And the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith, with having 3 coins on one side and 2 on the other, and 1 coin in the middle, it definitely speaks of someone who is well off and who is trying to give back to others. Now, what happens is, in this card, it is definitely about, the main and foremost meaning of the card is about having and not having, right? The balancing of the scales is the giving and receiving of something physical, whether that be money, whether that be stability, it could be housing, it could be anything that is physical and in practical nature. But most of the time it's about, someone who needs to be taken care of and someone who is able to take care of them. It can be about sponsoring or being sponsored. It can be about, kind of supporting someone and someone who needs support. But it can also be about offering a reward and receiving awards. So in that vein, it can be like kind of an endorsement. It can be kind of someone who is funding a project. If you're a business, it can be someone who's actually buying stock, or the shareholders of your endeavor. But a lot of times it just basically means that when someone is without and someone actually has the finances, it's the exchange of the two, right? One person has more at that time and another person has less. Now, what I always think of, and which is really interesting, is that, my mom always mentioned this to me as well, about being a have or a have not. You go through times in your life where you have, and then there are times in your life when you have not. And a lot of times it is financial, but sometimes it can just mean that, at one point in your life that maybe you're on top, you have more money, you kind of have the gravy in life. And especially this card coming after the 5, The other thing it can really mean is that you can be on the have-not side of it, where maybe you did, and again, this card coming right after the 5 of Pentacles, which we How to Tarot last week. If you are coming out of kind of a tough situation, maybe it was kind of a bailout kind of situation where someone lent you money and you do need to pay it back. The other thing that I can kind of see is that with this person being affluent, maybe you really did bounce back from a hard time, and now that you are making more money, maybe you are paying back debts that you owe. But a lot of times it does just mean that maybe you are on the receiving end of, receiving some kind of support, and usually it is financial. Now, our middle card kind of speaks to this too, and this is the Anna K Tarot. You see a king and queen, and you see the same balance scales, but you see someone giving to a mother and a child, right? You giving, and they look like she's kind of in need, right? So a lot of times this can mean that maybe you are making more money, and by being in a better place in your life, you are able to help other people. That could be a family member. So a lot of times the 6 of Pentacles can mean you supporting somebody. Again, in this day and age with the difference in generations, it could be what we call the sandwich generation. A lot of baby boomers are supporting their elderly parents. A lot of Generation X are supporting their baby boomer parents, So it could be a situation where maybe you have a father-in-law or a mother living with you. Maybe you have an elderly parent that needs medical care, so you are serving that role, and that can show up as the 6 of Pentacles. The 6 of Pentacles can also mean that maybe you have a child, and especially in this situation with the Anna K depiction, maybe you have a child with someone, and it is a matter of like child support, because when you look at it, the balance of the scales, it means you owe something to someone more than the other. Like maybe, there's another person there that needs your time and attention, but to be fair, you want to give your time and resources to the person who approached you first, right? So sometimes that can be a family matter. It can be, mother, parent. It can be mother of a child or father of a child. It can be, child support in that sense. Now, a lot of times it can mean that it can be teaching and learning. Sometimes this can be a mentor or a mentee relationship. So it can be you seeking out a mentor, someone who is giving you a lot of practical knowledge. Sometimes it's you giving practical knowledge or being a mentor to someone else. A lot of times it can be receiving information. I mean, that's more of a swords kind of thing when you receive a message. But if it is practical information, if you're being a teacher to someone, It can be taking advice. Like maybe you have a mentor who's giving you practical advice and possibly some, fiscal enforcement. It can be being shown the ropes of something. Sometimes you could be learning something. And the other thing is you could see this in kind of a more social situation where maybe if you have a mentor or a teacher who's teaching more than one student, you can kind of look at it as maybe you're learning more than the other person. Or, in times being as they are, maybe you're showing up and you're really putting the work in to learn. The other thing is that sometimes it can be practical knowledge, meaning that, and this is where I kind of go into the third deck. And the third deck I chose was the Spacious Tarot. And I actually really like this deck because, I'll be honest, when I look at the regular Rider-Waite-Smith, I get a little put off. I get a little irritated with this card, and it's not because it's a bad card. It's just, being a Libra and wanting everything even fair, to see equal scales, but to see one person giving money but not the other, even though they both look, like they are expectant. I kind of get the feeling, I do kind of get the feeling of unfairness or impartiality. The other definition, and this is what you'll hear a lot of tarot readers say, and this is, if you see this next to kind of more of a relationship card, when you look at the coins kind of look like, they look like little pieces of bread, and you see the other person is still kind of waiting and kind of like begging. A lot of tarot readers read that as that, the settling for crumbs card. And that's where this card definitely gets a bad rep with me, is because one person is, it's almost as if one person is kind of in a position of power and they're giving to someone else, but they're giving crumbs, right? And the other person's not getting anything, right? So a lot of times, a lot of tarot readers can, and especially in the reverse, will read it as you settling for crumbs. Or I do think of the expression, beggars can't be choosers. It is kind of a situation where if someone is giving you funding, or they're taking care of you, or they're giving you what they can give, you do want to be grateful for it, even though it feels like little, right? It's not a buffet, it's crumbs, right? But when we get into the reverse, we'll get into more of that. But I really kind of like the third deck. I definitely went with the third deck for this reason, is that I like this depiction. I love this whole deck because it's a very natural deck. There's no humans in it. It's all very natural images. But what you see is you see 6 different pentacles, right? Some are silver, some are gold, some are bronze. But what's beautiful about it is you have 2 nests there, right? And they're empty nests, right? So I really do think that that's a beautiful depiction of the 6 of Pentacles, and that depiction really helps me understand the card better. It helps me understand the true meaning of the original Rider-Waite-Smith. It isn't that someone's trying to be unfair. It's not that someone's trying to be impartial, because the scales are balanced, right? But what it means is, okay, what basket, what nest am I going to put these coins into, right? The one on the left or the one on the right? And what that basically means is, it means that the person has 2 obligations, right? They have 2 responsibilities. And if one responsibility came first, like for instance, if you have an elderly parent that needs help affording, a facility that serves their needs, then yes, that need is going to come before, that need is going to come before, a relationship, right? Or it could quite possibly mean that this person was married before. If they were married before, then their first marriage and any dependence that they have from that first marriage, that's going to be the nest that they have to feather first, right? And this person clearly is affluent, right? You see a king and you see someone who's very kind of well off, What it kind of means is that they might very well have a legal obligation, and not even legal, but when you see the scales of justice, you kind of think of ethical, right? They have an ethical obligation to give what excess they have to the person who needs it first, or the person who needs it more. Now, a lot of times it can just mean an act of charity. It can mean just helping others. It can be kind of an act of philanthropy, or now the other meaning that it can mean is that, again, coming after the Five of Pentacles, which is kind of an impoverished card, once you finally get back on your feet, maybe you're actually making a profit. Like, you see this guy is not dressed like a king, but he's dressed very elegantly. It could mean that once you actually have more money, you could be repaying debts. It could be that you were in a really tight spot before and maybe a family member or somebody helped you out, but you still have an obligation to pay them back before you go on with your life, right? You might, things might be gravy now, but, they weren't always, and you do have an obligation to the person to repay that in full first. Now, the other thing is that sometimes it can be a return on investments. It can be having gratitude for what you have. Again, seeing that the ability to be charitable. It can be a loan or a grant. It can be something that you won. If you see this next to a very prosperous card, like maybe the Nine of Cups, or maybe even the Nine of Pentacles, or the Ace of Pentacles, it could be you winning the lottery or winning some kind of cash prize. It could be you winning when you go to school, what is it? A scholarship. It could be gifts or, financial assistance from family members. It can be a sign that your hard work is paying off. Like, if you started a financial endeavor, maybe you started your own business and all of a sudden it's making better than a average profit, and you can actually give back. Sometimes it can mean the type of business that actually gives back to the community. Like, there's several businesses that when you invest in them, like if you buy a pair of shoes, they'll donate a pair of shoes, or a certain percentage of it is guaranteed to go back to the environment or to go to a certain cause. That can, the Six of Pentacles can mean that. Sometimes it can mean just very fair financial dealings. If you're asking about the whether or not a merchant is reputable, and this card comes up, it can mean that they really do honor their commitments and they honor them in the order that they were received. It can be teaching your skills to others. Sometimes it can be money management, or maybe you're showing that to someone else. It can be a bonus, if you see this next to the Ace of Pentacles, or it can be some kind of promotion that has really been long coming, and again, this coming after the Five of Pentacles. But a lot of times it can also mean someone who's good about paying back their debts. If you had a question, maybe you lent somebody money and you had a question on whether or not they would be good on paying you back. It can be a sign that maybe your career is improving, that very soon, you'll have the funding. Maybe you're waiting for some kind of investment for your business. But a lot of times, when it comes to, again, it does kind of mean too fiscal responsibilities and you making the fair decision. The other thing is sometimes it can mean a choice. If you see a lot of twos come up in a reading, maybe the Two of Swords or the Two of Wands, sometimes it can mean that you have a choice between two investments and you really have to decide which one you're going to go with. And I think this third deck with the two nests, you think of your nest egg. I think that really goes a long way to saying, okay, where are you going to put your money to get the best return, or where you think it would serve the most good. So when it represents people, it really does. The Six of Pentacles represents a mentor. It can be a buyer, so it can be in a merchant sense. It can be a philanthropist, an almsgiver. It can be a wise investor, like someone who's very, stock savvy. This could be someone who is investing in stocks and looking. It can be someone who renders really sound advice. So this could be a financial advisor. And it could also be a charity. So, if you're being approached by a charity, it can be that if it comes up in a reading. Now, if we go ahead and look at the Six of Pentacles in reverse, that definitely talks about, it talks about the scales being not balanced, right? And then it can kind of, those pentacles are no longer falling into the hands of the person, they're falling up into space. So a lot of times that can be on loss of goods or property. It can mean that maybe you gave money, maybe you gave money in good faith to someone thinking that they needed it, and it turned out that they didn't need it and you got scammed. A lot of times it can mean that maybe you were lent money and now you owe the money back, but you don't have the money to give. Sometimes it can be a refusal to share. Maybe you paid money that was what you thought was owed. You put it into that basket and you didn't get the fair return back. A lot of times it can be a sign of dishonest bookkeeping. Maybe you were giving money to someone in good faith and they were mismanaging your finances. So sometimes that can be a sign of someone who's not reputable, who was helping you with your finances. Sometimes it can be money problems or just bad debts. Sometimes it can be greed or selfishness, like maybe you don't want to give to someone even though they really need it. Sometimes it could be envy or jealousy, like sometimes you're looking at someone like they have so much to give, but you're not really looking close. If you see it in reverse next to like a swords card, sometimes you might be seeing things on social media or just out there and thinking this person has all the money in the world, and maybe they really don't. One story that I kind of think of, and it's actually a Bible parable. I don't know which Bible verse it is. If you know, please post it in the comments. I'd really like to know. But it's in the Bible, and it talks about how somebody was giving alms at church. Like they were giving to the poor. And one wealthy man comes out and says, well, I can give, $5,000, no problem. But that's, the 5,000 was theirs to give, right? It was gravy to them. It was not what they lived upon. It was disposable income. Then another person comes out and they are not rich. The person is poor, just as poor as the person, almost like just a one rung above the person who's asking for the money, right? The person who's impoverished, someone who's just a little bit better. They don't have a lot, but they have a little, right? And they give their last dollar, right? They give their last dollar. It means that they can't have ice cream after dinner, but that's okay. They gave it to charity. And it was talking about how God or Jesus really smiled upon that. It's more giving to give your last dollar than to give 5,000 of dollars, that don't mean anything to you. And that's what I kind of think of when I think of the Six of Pentacles in reverse. It's almost like when you know that you would go without a little bit of gravy in order to help someone else, versus someone else who still has the gravy. They have plenty of gravy to give, but they give it, kind of in that a little bit of an arrogant sense. That's what I kind of think of the Six of Pentacles in reverse. It's almost like give that last dollar, even though you could use it, someone else needs it more. That's kind of like what I think of when I see that. You're helping someone with their nest when they really don't have it, even though it might impact you a little bit, but it won't cripple you. The other thing is that sometimes it can mean not having equity. So if you are kind of strapped, if you are kind of mortgaged to the gills, it can show up. The Six of Pentacles can show up in the reverse. It can be unpaid debts, like something that you do owe and that is coming due and that you really need to get on that. Sometimes it can be lost through theft or carelessness, like, maybe you mortgaged to pay something and then that it was a bad, trade-off. And also sometimes it can be a little bit of a lack of recognition, and that's the meaning of this card that really irks me, is that, that giving of crumbs, right? It can mean, in a relationship sense, it can mean someone stringing you along. It can mean someone's throwing you crumbs because you're the other participant, either that or they don't mind leaving you waiting because they're stringing along someone else. And that's really kind of the deplorable kind of sense, but usually that means that, again, this person with their affluence is in a little bit of power, right? And if you're gonna, the other sign of it is that if you keep in a beggar sense, if you feel like you're waiting for that validation, you're waiting for them to give you those breadcrumbs, and they're giving it to someone else because that person came before you, it's very clear that this person is not very reputable, and they're doing it to several people. So sometimes in a relationship sense, the Six of Pentacles in reverse can be really kind of a really not so nice card. But most of the time it means just lack of a financial support. The other thing that can mean is that maybe you really do need this, you need help from a family member and they're telling you no, or they have the the person has the extra to give, but they refuse to give it for whatever reasons. But so sometimes that can be a lack of generosity of spirit. It can be someone who's being a little shrewd. If you see this next to the Four of Pentacles or the Four of Pentacle in reverse, sometimes it can be a little bit, and I know this is a real antiquated term, but the Four in reverse can be an indentured servant. It can be someone who's paying off their debts, so it can be a sign of someone who's in foreclosure, or if you had to make payments to make something whole again. So sometimes it can be a sign of bankruptcy. Sometimes it can be a thief or someone who's a tightwad. It can mean someone who's a money launderer, which is a little bit crazy. But if you see this maybe next to the Seven of Swords or some kind of other thief cards, that would be a sign that maybe there's a risk of you being swindled, or someone doing something under the table. The other thing is that it can be someone who depends on you for basic necessities. So it can be a sign of a lot of codependency. If you see the Six of Pentacles in reverse next to the Devil, it can be someone who really relies on you, but kind of in an unhealthy way. Or maybe you rely on someone else in an unhealthy way. But again, in a relationship sense, it can be someone who's been manipulated into paying money. Maybe there is some kind of legal situation where it causes you to pay for the living expenses of someone else, but you owe it to that person, air quotes, because of whatever occurred between you. So that can be child support, it can be alimony, and especially if you see the reversal of the Six of Pentacles next to maybe the Justice card. But as you see, it's a very complex card. It has a duality to it that's very hard to interpret it. And with the physical, with the pentacle being the real world, with being what you can touch and hold, and being what holds value for you, it definitely holds a lot of meaning. But we have completed the how-to part. Let me go ahead. I will let you choose your deck. The first deck is the Rider-Waite-Smith by A.G. Mueller, and with it we have the Sunstone. The second deck is the Anna Kay with the beautiful smoky quartz. The last deck is the Spacious Tarot, and I think I finally learned that this is a green fluorite, which either way it's very lucky. I will go ahead and freeze frame the video. Please choose from your intuition or whatever deck you're drawn to. If you need more time, please pause the video, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, we're back. I'm going to go ahead and move up these other decks. And again, we are clarifying our read with the A.G. Mueller Mystic Kipper deck. And this is a little bit of a cartoonish kind of deck, but I really think the messages are very profound. It's almost like my Gypsy deck where, it really clarifies. It gives a lot of really good, meaning. Wow, guys. Okay, right off the cuff. Okay, middle. Okay. Ooh. I'm going to go with these two. Just kind of arranging it where I can really clarify it. Okay, we see the Knight of Wands wanted to come out at the bottom of the deck. So that kind of means someone who is working very slowly towards their financial future. Try saying that 3 times fast. And I went ahead and got your Kipper cards. I was going for one, but I shuffled for two. And wow, guys. Oh gosh, let's jump right in. First off, the first Kipper card is you got Court. And with that, again, with those scales being in the picture, I definitely feel like your Six of Pentacles, and this is how it manifests in your life, is this is something that's been going on for a while, and you'll know exactly what we're talking about. This situation is not new news to you. And what it is, you feel really judged. This could very well be something legal. It could be a legal fight for something. I'm not so much seeing property, like there's not a whole lot of pentacles other than the six, but I do think that you've been worn out from this fight. Like, it could be, so the root of the situation, we have the King of Wands and we've got the Hanged Man. So I really do think that the start of this situation is that you were going after your desires. You were going after your desires. You knew what you wanted and you went after it. But having pursued your desires, it kind of did a full stop, like a full halt. And you had to look at the situation in a whole new way. It's almost like whatever happened in this situation, whatever resulted in some kind of legal issue or you feeling judged, really turned the situation on its head. Now, what's happening is you are getting forward movement on this now, or in the past, you felt like you were getting forward movement, but this is the 8 going into the 9. What's probably happening is you probably felt like you had a handle on this situation. Something happened, and honestly, with this many wands, I'm gonna have to read it the way I see it. I really do get kind of a sexual vibe. I don't see any pages here, so I don't know if it resulted in any kind of like alimony, maybe marriage or children. But I do think that with 8 wands, sometimes the 8 of wands can mean you being kind of a single person, and you can be a man or a woman in the King of Wands energy. It just means you're very dynamic. But the King is very mature, and the Hanged Man is really seeing something from a new perspective. It's seeing it from a spiritual perspective. It's not a comfortable place to be, but you see the lesson in it, right? And for that to come with the King of Wands, it definitely means that you took some action, and then later you're learning from the results of your actions, right? But the 8 of Wands really does mean, sometimes that can mean multiple romantic interests. Otherwise, it can mean that something happened that started, and plans were in motion, but something legal crept up, and the legal part of it slowed everything down. And and it's almost like you're waiting for a resolution. It's like everything's on track. You full speed ahead, and this experience really taught you something, right? I'm almost getting a feeling like it taught you how to be less impulsive, and that's not a bad thing. The wand suit is about experiencing life, but something happened, and with this number of wands, I do think that it might have been some kind of event that resulted from passion. You were really gung-ho about something, and it kind of blew up in your face, and you learned from it, you matured from it. It got you to see the situation from a perspective, which that perspective is what developed you. Right? You learned from it, and you became a more mature person. You're still a fiery person. I am getting a sense of passion. Now, the one thing is that everything is on mark, like things were going straight ahead, but then something, you see how this Court card is kind of holding back the 8 of Wands. It's almost as if something legal crept up, either that or some kind of judgment. And again, with the scales being there, I'm really getting some kind of court case, some kind of legal battle, either that or some way that you could be judged for your actions. And it really put you through the ringer, right? It was supposed to be cut and dry. Okay, this happened. Let's full speed ahead. But it went from the 8 of Wands to the 9 of Wands. It got dragged out. And it's something legal or some kind of judgment got dragged out, and it really, you're feeling beat up at this point, right? You learned from the experience. You just kind of want it to be over. You're definitely seeing you're okay. The King of Wands is a go 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 guy. He doesn't like sitting still, but you're willing to sit still to get through this, right? But you really did think that this was going to go quickly. Either that, or recently you thought that it was on track to be resolved, and it's dragging itself out, and you're feeling really you're feeling a little, you're feeling worn out. You're feeling like you don't have much more energy to give to this. Like you're feeling beat up. You're going to see it through to the end, right? Because this guy's a fighter. He's won all of those other 8 wands, and those are 8 wands. There you go. The 8 wands that were on track are now behind you, right? And you're holding the 9th wand. You're like, bring on the 10. I'm going to see this through. I'm not giving up. Whatever it is, you're not giving up. You're not giving up. And I do think that this might be some kind of court case. Now, presently, in the card that came out underneath the 6 is you got the Tower. And gosh, guys, I don't want you to fear the Tower. The Tower, there are no bad cards in tarot. But the Tower is a little bit more of a feared one, because it means the disintegration of something. It means the breakdown of something. So maybe by you holding out for your side of this court case, there might be something that's breaking down. It could be a breakdown of a relationship. It could be a breakdown of some kind of, and with it being pentacles, it can be some kind of financial agreement. But it's almost like you're in a real uncomfortable spot, right? You're watching the Tower fall, and when the Tower falls, it does mean that something was built on a faulty foundation. So it's not a bad card. I know it's traumatic, and that seems to be where you are presently. You're letting the Tower burn, and it's breaking your heart to see that. The other thing is you see how much flames is in this. Like you see flames in his crown, and you see flames on the Tower. It's almost like, you'll handle whatever comes your way, but you're tired. You've fought the long fight, and right now you seem to be witnessing the breakdown of something. And this could be property, this could be a fight over property. It could be a fight over custody or money. A lot of times it does mean money, but, pentacles can mean a house. But it's almost like you're watching the dissolution, and it's not going slowly, but there has been some kind of catalyst. I also think that by you paying back one person and not the other right away, it's contributing to this Tower moment. It's almost like I am getting a real strong sense of conflict here. The 9 of Wands and the Tower, and then as we move forward, we're going into death. So it's not a bad spread, but you've got some major life events going on. And I do think that it's about being judged or some kind of legal settlement. But right now you're in the thick of it, and it's almost like the main action is occurring right now. Now, as you go forward, I want you to take heart, because I know these are some kind of heavy cards. You were already exhausted in the past, and you're really kind of going through a Tower moment now. But in the future, you did get the Death card, and you got the High Priestess, which is really a beautiful energy to follow death, because death is about transformation. Death does naturally follow... Does it naturally follow? No, it precedes. It precedes the Tower. But death is really about letting go. It really is. It's if a situation was no longer viable, if it was no longer strong, if the foundation needed to fall in order for you to begin again. Because the other thing is that I always like to look in the background of the Death card, because you see the 2 towers, and those are the 2 towers that are in the Moon card. But you see the sun coming up, right? So yes, right now you might be in the throes of a very deep transformation. And these are major arcana. You got major arcana in the past, major arcana in the present, and you got 2 major arcanas in the future. So that is That's some serious stuff, guys. That is some serious stuff. But the High Priestess, the beautiful thing about the High Priestess is she is very mysterious, right? There is, and you look at her crown, right? She has the waning moon, the full moon, and the crescent, the gibbous moon. So she is about the cycles of life. You've got the cycles of life, and you've got the woman. You've got the High Priestess. She guards the veil between the known and the unknown. She sees the higher path that you're on. She sees the physical path, which is really kind of shitty right now. It's okay. She knows the transformation you're going through, but she also knows the higher spiritual goal, like the lesson, and I know I hate using that word because it's a crappy word. You know, those are not the lessons. This is not how we like to learn, right? But you're going through a powerful transformation, and what you learn now, you will retain for the rest of your life. But she knows your path. She knows, it's almost like your life, it's your life purpose. It's your life purpose, and it's gonna be okay. That's the other thing. When you come out the other side of this, you're gonna be okay. It feels really awful right now, but you're transforming yourself at a very base level. And the beautiful thing is that she sees both sides. She sees, the High Priestess knows what's going on in your physical life. Like, she sees the tower burning, and she knows that it's almost like you're pulling into yourself. The Death card is always associated, and you see the flower on his flag, which makes up like 1/4 of the card. That is really, when I see the flower on the flag, it's like seeing the butterfly, and I know that's a very girly kind of symbol, but it's the chrysalis. You're taking your body, you're taking your soul, you're taking your being right now, and you're transforming it into something else. You are still yourself. You never stop being yourself. But the High Priestess knows that this is part of your journey, and she's there. It's almost like if you meditate or if you pull into yourself, you can hear her voice. She's there for you, and she knows what you're going through, and it's going to be okay. This is part of your path. It's a very hard, right now you're in a hard area of your life. And it is because you might owe some debts to what occurred here, but whatever had to break down, had to break down. The other thing about the death is that death is like a slow disintegration. If you've ever seen anything biodegrade, and this is so silly to compare it to a compost pile, but if you take a banana peel or an orange peel and you bury it in your backyard, how long does it take to decompose? And that peel breaks down into elements that feeds the other plants around it. You're going to grow and become something different, and those elements are going to contribute to that growth. So it feels really crappy now, and you are in the midst of that shell. You're probably wrapped up in your womb right now. You're a little bit of butterfly soup as you go forward, but what you're going to see is you did get the 5 of Cups, and you got the Page of Cups. So you are going to go through a little bit moving forward. You're going to have a little bit period of mourning. You're going to lose, you're going to mourn the loss of your tower and the metamorphosis that you're going through. But the beautiful thing is that the Page of Cups really is that butterfly. It's really, it's like being spiritually enlightened. It's being like open. This can mean a child. It can mean, you have something new and something emotionally worth investing in. Now, the other Kipper, the other mystical card you got marriage. So, quite honestly, guys, I'll go ahead and say it. This could be a divorce. It could be a divorce and possibly a custody battle over a child. But you do know that it's the right thing to do, even though it feels like a breakdown of a relationship. It feels like a breakdown of a commitment. The other thing is that you might have other things in your life that you're kind of ignoring because this is taking your full attention. But just know that, yes, you are going to go through a metamorphosis, and you are going to have a mourning period. But the Page of Cups, even if there's no child involved, this is like a really beautiful rebirth. It's like you being very vulnerable and open to your emotions. The other thing is with that fish popping out of the cup, you're going to be really surprised how good you feel. You're almost going to feel like a new person once this is all over. You do have a little ways left to go, because right now you're in the middle of the Tower moment. You probably feel like a lot of things are changing for you, and it feels very uncertain. But just know that as you go forward, things are going to be okay. The sun is rising. If you need some reassurance, really kind of meditate or maybe dream or monitor your dreams, because your own unconscious, your intuition is really going to serve you now. It's going to let you know that you're on the right path. And the other thing is that with the Five of Cups, you are mourning the cups that fell over, but you have 2 cups behind you, right? So if you turn around and kind of open your heart to the new possibilities, you're gonna feel better, and it's gonna, the best thing I can say is kind of go with the flow. And I know that's really trite advice, but I know exactly how you feel. I've definitely had Tower moments in my life, and all you can do is take one day at a time, really kind of roll with it, be flexible. Be flexible, and sit in the poop if you have to. If you're having a sad moment, cry, cry, let it out, mourn, exercise those emotions. Sit in the bath and really just, let all the salt water out, But then after you let go, after you purge a little bit, after you have that kind of cathartic release, you are going to feel better. You're going to feel better. And quite honestly, you know what? With the marriage card being forward, and I really think this is the most beautiful card in this deck. I love the way that the husband is got a glass of wine and he's looking down at his wife, and the monkey is holding the music. It's quite possible that maybe you have something really wonderful to look forward to. That, in your future, maybe you've had kind of a crappy past, but in your future, you have a lot more to look forward to. But wow, guys, I know that was a lot, but oh gosh, please take heart. You are going to be okay. And this is really good energy. I know, things come along in life that really challenge us to our core. But let's go ahead and go on to the second deck. We got the Anna K, and we have the Smoky Quartz. Let's go ahead and see, how does the Six of Pentacles manifest in your life? Here, I'm really getting the senses like this. There we go. Presently, how does the Six of Pentacles manifest? That one's really popping out. Can you clarify? Devil and Eight of Pentacles. Good Lord. Please clarify the devil. Okay, future energy, please. Future energy. Thank you. Another Five of Cups. Gosh, guys. Let's not make the Five of Cups the common denominator. It's not a bad card, but gosh, it sucks. It's going to be okay, though. Ooh, Journey in Reverse. One more. Alright, guys. So in our past, let's go ahead and get started. In our past, we have the King of Pentacles. And underneath it, we have the Eight of Swords and the Knight of Swords. So that's a lot of mental energy. I really do love this Eight of Swords. I think it's definitely going to be in the How to Tarot when we get to it. But you see a woman who's very elaborately dressed, but when she looks at herself in the reflection, she looks all tattered, right? And she's all bound and tied up. And then we have the Knight of Swords, who looks like he's all armored up and racing towards a flaming building. So I really do think, when I see the flaming building, I kind of think of the Tower card. So I really do think that, I think you're in the past, you've been in a very affluent position, because when you look at your Six of Pentacles, it looks like the same king, right? Looks like the same king who's giving money is the same king who's holding that pentacle there. So what the feeling I get is that I think that you can be a man or a woman, but I think you've really built yourself up financially. Maybe you're really good at your job, or maybe you've gotten promotions at your job where you're really in a good place. But I think that mentally, again, you're putting out fires, or you're running to the aid of someone who's had tower moments. And with this being the Six of Pentacles, and you seeing a woman with a child there, I think that you are in a strong place financially, and you feel obligated to help others, right? You don't want to be that person who doesn't help your family or doesn't help someone in need, even though you have the resources to do it. Now, your Kipper cards, you got a change and you got bereavement. So what I'm kind of getting here, and I'll go ahead and call it, guys, is that I really think that maybe you are doing very well at work, and maybe someone had some kind of financial hardship. I'm really getting that it's probably a family member, or it's somebody with a child that you feel maybe this person helped you out before you were a king, someone who was really there for you. It can be a family member, it can be a friend, it can be someone you're in a relationship with, but they had some kind of hardship, some kind of change, some kind of sudden change caused them a bereavement. And this can be a funeral. And I hate to say that, and it breaks my heart with times being as they are. It's like everybody is struggling financially, everybody is struggling with death and loss. But what it is in the past, you were building yourself up where you became very financially stable. But, being the Knight of Swords, the Knight of Swords is a verbal guy, and you might have gotten word that somebody's tower was burning, maybe someone's house actually caught fire. And what it is that you're in a position to help them because you have more money than they do, or, again, some kind of bereavement occurred, and I really get the sense that this might have been someone who helped you out in the past, and you really kind of owe it to them. But what it is that, again, with the Eight of Swords, it's like on the outside, I think you are this king, and you can be a woman or a man, and then that king energy. On the outside, you're dressed all well, but when you look in the mirror, you think that you're really bound. You feel really tied up. It's almost like it isn't that you don't want to help someone else. It's that maybe on the outside, you really do exude an appearance as if you have it all together, but really maybe you don't have it as well off as people think. But there are other people that are in need right now. So, you don't want to ignore them, but really you feel really tied up by this. Like you don't want to not help someone, but by helping them, it really, I really do get the sense like on the outside, you're putting up a front of being very, not to say that you're not well off, but maybe it really would strap you a little bit more if you help. Either that, or maybe you just got out of financial strain, and by helping someone else, it's going to put you right back where you started, right? So you feel a little mentally trapped. You want to help. You understand that someone went through a major change, and you do have the money to do it. And you don't want to seem like pardon my French, you don't want to seem like the asshole who's not willing to help. But it really does. It has you tied up mentally, right? The other thing I can kind of think of is maybe, someone is in trouble and they never really helped you in the past. Like maybe you really built yourself up from nothing, and then all of a sudden they want help even though they've never helped you. And it isn't that again, with balancing the scales, you want to be fair. You don't want to, not help someone. Now, under the Six of Pentacles, we've got some pretty dynamic cards here. We've got the Devil, and you got the King of Swords. And the King of Swords, I really do like this deck because you see him playing chess, right? He's a very mentally guy. He's very strategic. So the thing that I'm kind of getting is that I think that you are being called to help someone, but I think that you're being cautious with helping this person, because I think you want to be careful, because I do think that this person legitimately had some kind of loss, like some kind of bereavement. It possibly might have been the passing of someone, But this person also has addictions. Possibly they spend too much, or they have addictions to something, and you do not want to, you want to help them out, but you do not want to fuel their bad habits, right? So you're being very strategic. You're saying, okay, if I give you this money, my hard-earned money, you gotta somehow show me that it's going to this loss, that I'm not just supporting, you know, what you do, or some kind of financial bereavement. The other thing is that when I see the child there as well, it could be that the mother legitimately needs the money, but maybe the child is kind of acting out. And this child doesn't have to be this little guy. I know in this image it really looks like an innocent little person, but it could be a teenager, it could be a young adult who is getting into trouble. And you want to help the mother, but you do not want to fuel again the bad addictions of the child, but you do want to be of help. The other thing that I kind of seeing here is that the other thing that it could mean is that you do want to help this person, but you only want to help them long enough as they need it, right? And it could be that you do feel, the other thing I kind of get with that is that the devil can really mean codependency. So I think what you want to do is you want to help them through their current situation, but you do not want them getting reliant on you after that. You're almost planning your exit strategy, like, okay, I'll help you now because you legitimately have an emergency, but after that, I'm not, I can't pay after that. You have to, get back on your feet. Once you get back on your feet, I'm not supporting that. So I do think that you want to be fair, because the scales are really pointing to that. And with the devil, you do not want any codependency. You do not, I honestly kind of get the feeling as if, with this tied up feeling, I really do think that you have some conflicting feelings about the person that you're helping. You want to help them, but I do think that either you or the other person has some bad habits, and you don't want to contribute to any codependency. You really just want to support where you need to support, and then let it be fair, let it be equal, let it be pared back, right? And that's really kind of supported by your future cards, because you got the Eight of Cups. And the Eight of Cups is walking away, right? And it's almost like seeing the silhouette of the two people. I think that once you know that this person is okay, once everything is on the level, and, they're out of the woods, you want to walk away from that. And I do think that it's going to have a little bit of an emotional pull on you. To be honest, guys, this might be someone that that you really needed to rely on in the beginning, and they were never there for you, but then you're going to be there for them when they need it. So I'm getting kind of an emotional kind of heart kind of pain, like, okay, I'm going to do the right thing by you even though you never did the right thing by me. And what I see here is you've got the Ace of Swords and you've got the Five of Cups. And that is, gosh, guys, we've got the Eight of Cups and the Five of Cups, with, it's kind of a sandwich between, with the Ace of Swords in between. And you see, I love this Ace of Swords because she holds up her hand as if she's guarding herself, right? The Ace of Swords is really about clarity. It's about being very clear. It's about being very honest. And yes, I do think that as you go forward, you are going to have to move away from this situation. I do think it's going to cause you a little bit of pain. You're going to feel a little bit, you're very emotionally involved in this. But it is going to be the right thing to do. And I do think that you have to kind of stand firm in your decision. There's a truth here, right? The other thing is that, the Eight of Cups walking away, it's walking away from something that you were very emotionally invested in. And again, you are going to kind of grieve that. So I do think that this person that you're helping, that there is some kind of, it's gonna pull at your heartstrings to finish this agreement, whatever it is. You are gonna have to walk away, and it's gonna make you regretful. It's gonna make you mourn a little bit, but it's the right thing to do. The other thing is that I do think that you have to be very clear with your words, and I think you will be with the King of Swords and the Ace of Swords. I think you'll make it very, very, to the point. Okay, I need to walk away from this. But I do see you walking away from it in the future. I do think that you have to heal a little bit, but in your mind, it's going to be the right thing to do. Now, your other Kipper card is you got Journey, or a Journey, but you got it in the reverse. So you see the man sitting on the dock waiting for, I don't see three. I'm trying not to look at this boat like it's the Titanic. It's not the Titanic. It has one smokestack, okay? So it's a good ship. It's not a bad ship. But the Journey is in reverse. And so what I really get from that, especially with the Five of Cups, is that I think you're not going to be, once all this is done, you're not going to be real keen on moving on. It's almost like you don't want to move on, but you kind of have to. The other thing is that I really get a sense of that there's other things out in life waiting for you. But you are resistant, right? I think you're resistant, but it would be the right thing to go ahead and finish this agreement, because the devil is not a real healthy energy. You don't want to be contributing to someone. The other thing is that this could be someone with the King of Swords. It can be someone who's really kind of manipulating you for money. Not in a bad way, but it can be someone who really knows how to pull your strings, right? Someone who knows how to get you to give them the things that they need. So it is going to kind of hurt. You might actually have to see their behavior before you walk away, but you're going to know that it's the right thing to do, and you're going to stand up for that. And there is a journey ahead of you if you're willing to get on that boat. I do think that right afterwards you're not going to be real ready right away, and by all means give yourself some time. You don't have to push yourself. Give yourself time to mourn, but just know that when you turn around, there are 2 more cups waiting for you. And there is a ship that's coming in to pick you up for you to go on with your life, right? And it's going to take you to some miraculous new places. But I do say just be gentle with yourself. Also, don't monitor the situation very closely. If you know somebody's pattern of behavior, don't give in to that. Because I think, with the King of Swords, he's a very shrewd guy, and he knows human behavior. He's not going to be taken for a fool. Alright guys, so third deck, we've got the Spacious Tarot, and that's a beautiful card. Let's go ahead and see, how does the Six of Pentacles manifest in your life? I did want to mention in the intro, I hope you guys don't mind my pinky, my right hand, and goodness knows I use my hands for everything. I kind of, oh my gosh, it's kind of a stupid story. It always is, right? I was making a card for someone, for a friend of the family, and my die cut machine has a little handle that I crank. And it was a very thick die cut that I was cutting, so the handle kind of got jammed, and it had a tension. It had like a spring in it, and that handle whipped right back around, and it nailed me right in the pinky, and it bruised me really bad. It hit me right in the knuckle. So I'm less purple today, I'm more pink today, but I got myself good. So the pinky on my right hand is not really, I don't think it's affecting how I shuffle cards, but it definitely hurts. I think it'll be alright, but gosh, that was, that was a woozy, a doozy. So 6 of Pentacles, how does it manifest in your life? Past. Okay, please clarify the 2 of Cups. Okay, current. Ooh, alright. Please clarify the 8 of Swords. And future, please. so I'm kind of seeing the Seven of Swords and the Eight of Cups. Let's go ahead and get your mystical Kipper cards. I took 2 for everyone else, so I'll take 2 for you. And actually, this was trying to come out in reverse, so I'm going to read it that way. Mean person, good gentleman. Meetings. Okay. Alright, guys. So in the past, wow. Gosh. So in the past, we've got the Two of Cups, and we got, the Explorer of Wands that wants to fall on the floor. I'm sorry. Hope you're not seeing the top of my head. Okay. But we got the Two of Cups, and we got the Explorer of Wands. And that's the Knight of Swords. Gosh, I think he came up in one of the other decks. And when I was shuffling, the Guardian of Wands, which is the Queen of Wands, came out right across, right across. And your Kipper card, you got Pleasant Letter, which is like getting a letter, but it was in the reverse. So that tells me that's an unpleasant letter, and especially with the Explorer of Wands, with the Knight of Wands, which is someone who runs in. You see kind of the Black Crow can be a harbinger of good, of positive, protective energy, but sometimes it can be a sign of an ominous kind of message as well, depending on the surrounding cards. So, wow, guys, I really do think in the past, you can be a man or a woman watching this, but I do definitely think, I'm going to have to call it, guys. I really think the Guardian of Wands, she's a very dynamic woman. She's a beautiful woman. This could be your energy. The vibe I'm getting, guys, is that you're going to get, I'll be honest, I gotta say it how I read it. I'm getting a little bit of a catfight energy in here, guys. But the thing is, I don't think the catfight is on your side. I think you're going to get some kind of message. You're going to get some kind of message from a real fiery female. And I'm almost getting kind of like it almost feels kind of threatened. Either that, or if you're the Queen of Wands, it's almost like, again, with this coming across as a kind of angle, there's a Two of Cups situation. There's a meeting of two souls, right? And this could be you and another person. And there's going to be some kind of sudden message that comes in from a real fiery female. And it's not going to be a pleasant letter. And I don't mean this in a bad way. I don't think anybody's going to chew you out. But I do think that someone with a lot of spunk, for the lack of a better word, there's going to be a real kind of spunky woman that comes up that is going to kind of, you ever get those text messages, or it could be even a post on some kind of social media, that with the Explorer of Wands, I'm really kind of getting that. It's going to be some kind of message like, it feels kind of territorial to me. I do think that you might be talking to somebody, and either that, or it's going to be some kind of warning. You might be real close to someone, and then all of a sudden you get some kind of urgent message that says, please beware. Please beware. And I don't get the vibe that you're doing anything wrong. I don't even get the vibe like I don't think you're going after anybody else's person. I just think you're being yourself and you're feeling a connection to someone. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, I'm getting a real protection kind of sense from this. And again, with this being the 2, and with your Six of Pentacles being 2 nests, I'm going to come out and say it, guys. I really do think that you might be talking to someone, or you might be connecting with someone who might have an obligation to someone else. And it could be male or female. You assign the gender as it resonates. But this person that you're talking to feels very connected to you. It's almost like you have a meeting of souls. They feel very emotionally bonded. But either this person that you're bonding with is not communicating that they have another obligation, possibly another relationship. And they have to be careful, because the person that they're dealing with could come up and kind of treat you like you're a third party. There's the Explorer of Wands, like rushing in with a message. It's like, and he's not a page. It's not like, let me rush up and say, hey, so-and-so is here. No, it's urgent. It's urgent. This knights are messengers, like they're like soldiers. They're put on missions. And the Guardian of Wands, especially being in an angle, and the Pleasant Letter being in reverse, I'm almost getting kind of not like a physical danger, but I'm getting almost like a verbal or social media kind of danger where you have to be careful to not cross this person. There is someone else involved, and I don't think that you're aware of this other person. And I think whomever it is that you're dealing with really needs to tell you about that. And I think they're trying to tell you about it. It's almost like they're worried. I'm getting a sense like they're almost worried that this Queen of Wands is going to either reach out to you, or if you're the Queen of Wands, that this other person's going to reach out to you and send you some kind of nasty gram. Either that, or you're going to hear about it on social media, like someone's going to badmouth you or try to make you out to be a bad person. But I definitely think the Explorer of Swords is in the upright. All of these cards are in the upright, but the only other thing I can think of is that you might get news of some kind of third party that you were not aware of. And with being the Guardian of Wands, if you're the Guardian of Wands, it's almost like you let it roll off you. Because honestly, you're too classy for that. Being the Queen of Wands, it might bother you. Honestly, you'd be kind of pissed that no one told you, that if someone dragged you into something. But it's almost, I am getting a sense, because you have this kind of connection, and then there's this urgent message, and it's crossed by the Queen of Wands. And it seems like it's a pleasant letter in the reverse, which means that it's going to be not bad news, but it's almost like shocking news. It's like news you didn't expect. And I think it's going to be from the Guardian of Wands or regarding the Guardian of Wands. So, there's someone else involved here. It's not two people. And then when you get to the present, which is your Six of Pentacles, and remember our Six of Pentacles has two nests, right? And there's 6 pentacles above it. And the other thing is the jury is out, right? We don't know which nest those pentacles are going into. Yeah, guys, I really think that you're dealing with someone who has to make a choice. One of the nests is the Guardian of Wands, and that could be your nest or it could be the other person's. And the other nest is the other person. And the Eight of Swords is feeling kind of trapped. It's that mental trapped feeling. And actually that came out in the last deck too. But I love this depiction, because you see 8 swords there, but one is separate, but you see the shadow of it tied to the tree. The beauty about the 8 of Swords is that you're not really trapped. It's just in your head. It's a mental thing, right? The other thing is that if someone's putting you in a 6 of Pentacles position, you really need to be honest about it. They need to be honest about it. It shouldn't be coming out in some, pardon my French, some half-assed text message. It needs to be like in person, face to face. Look, these are the obligations that I have. You might hear something about it. It's really like one of those situations where it's your choice. It's always up to you whether or not you are a part of a situation that is going to bring you down, right? If someone has some kind of obligation to either a family member or someone else, if you think that person is going to bring you bad news or drag you into some kind of crap, when it's the person you're dealing with, it's their obligation. Now, this could very well be your obligation. To put it in that sense, I'm sorry, I know I'm kind of going back and forth. So either you could be contacting someone that really has an urgent, you might be kind of in an emotional connection with someone that needs to send you an urgent message that's regarding a Guardian of Wands, a Queen of Wands, a very fiery woman who can really kind of rip you up. And it's going to be, that news is going to be given to you in kind of like a shocking kind of text message. The other interpretation is that you are the person who is connecting to someone else. Your 6 of Pentacles involves the Queen of Wands. One of those nests, you got 6 pentacles. You've got to decide which nest you're putting the pentacles into and how many pentacles you're putting into that nest. And one of the nests is the Guardian of Wands, right? One of them is the Queen of Wands, and she's a warm, dynamic person. So if you are torn between two obligations, it's really, really important that you be honest and that you're not electroshocking someone with this. This should not come out after the fact. But the Eight of Swords is really about, you might feel kind of tied up by this decision, but you're not tied up. You're not. You are not tied to that tree. You are outside of that tree. You have the obligation to tell the other person what's going on, or if you are the other person, the person that you're dealing with, the person who has the choice between the two nests, needs to tell you what's going on, and it shouldn't be last minute. Shouldn't be last minute, and it shouldn't be with the other party giving you the router's news flash, right? This is, Kermit drinking the tea. This does not need to be splashed across social media pages, and it shouldn't, so it's one of those things where someone might feel a little mentally trapped by this, but it shouldn't come to the point where someone's like publicly, because the other thing is with swords, that means a lot of social public kind of, putting something on blast, putting something out there that doesn't need to be. So, 2 cups, 2 nests, and an unpleasant letter. We want to be very careful with that. The other thing is, I think you might be dealing with someone who might not be telling you about their other obligations, and they're really afraid that you're going to get a nasty gram from the other person, and that's going to inform you what's going on. And it might be kind of splashy in the public view. But this person is not trapped. You are not trapped. You have the right, you have the complete authority to be honest, because you're not tied to that tree. You might feel like you are, but you're not. You're not trapped. So, and also, if someone's subjecting you to any of that crap, you have the complete right to call them on it. Be like, where's this second nest coming from? I didn't hear about this second nest. Please enlighten me. Because it's also, the other thing is, if you're getting this through the router's wire, it's your right to be separate from someone else's BS, right? They don't need to be dragging you into that, at least not without letting you know. So moving forward, you got the 5 of Wands and you got the Emperor. And wow, guys, that's some powerful energy. The 5 of Wands is conflict. It's about competition. It can definitely mean some petty things being said or done. But you have the Emperor underneath it. And the Emperor is another fire sign. It's normally the sign of Aries. And it usually means a masculine, but you can be a feminine in that energy. You know what? The Emperor is he's very controlled. And what he says goes, because you look at the lines of poppies, they're all strategically planted. They're all lined up in a very particular order. And you look at the 5 of Wands, you see magic wands, that are all at crosses to each other. I think what's happening is, I do think that someone's doing kind of damage control. I think you might have been connecting to someone who might have had another obligation that they didn't really want to let you know about. Maybe they were afraid of losing you by telling you that they had some other obligation that they needed to honor. I think that being the Guardian of Wands, if that's your energy, I really think that I think what it is you're such a beautiful, dynamic person, they didn't want to give up the opportunity with you, but they do have to warn you because they don't want it to come as an unpleasant letter. They don't want it to come through. They don't want you to find out what's going on from a third-party source or to drag you into any drama. Now, you are separate from the drama, and the other thing is that they're separate from the drama. I think that they're very tied up in their mind, or you're tied up in your mind, because you don't know what nest they're going to put their pentacles in. Your nest, the other person's nest, who's going to get the other thing is there's 6 coins there, right? And there's kind of a tipping point. And when you look at the Rider-Waite-Smith, the tipping point is one person gets 2, the other person gets 3, right? And it's the fairness, the scale is balanced by who was there first, right? And it's completely contingent upon the situation, right? Maybe this person has an elderly parent that they have to pay for. Maybe this person has a child from a previous marriage or a previous engagement. But there is definitely drama in the future. But I see either you trying to control it or this person that you're dealing with is trying to control it. But the Emperor is definitely he's a military guy. Like, right, like what he says goes. So I do think that if it's your energy, you're not going to stand for any drama. It's almost like you're going to keep a tight rein on whatever crap is coming your way. You probably will have some stuff, either slander or someone trying to make you out to be the bad guy. I do see the Five of Wands as being kind of petty drama, but you're not having it. Right, you're very gonna very materialistic, like a military man, like a general. Like a general, you're gonna be like, no, at ease, get the hell out. You're not having it, right? And this is your realm. So you're either not going to put up with any crap that's coming in from this situation, or the person that you're dealing with that brought you into this situation is not going to tolerate that. Maybe you are, honestly, I'm not seeing any pages here. So I don't really think that it's a child kind of situation. Like, I don't think it's anybody who has a child with someone else, because sometimes that can kind of get messy. Sometimes, not in a bad way, but if you're having a relationship with someone who has custody or, has legal situations with the parent, the co-parent of their child, that can sometimes get a little messy. A lot of people are very, very cool about that. A lot of times they'll be like, okay, fine, we're divorced, you pick them up on Saturday, I have them every Sunday, and they're cool about it. Here, I'm seeing something kind of different. I'm seeing someone who, with unpleasant letter, someone who might want to drag you into a little bit of crap or to try to shock you with stuff that you don't know. But either the person you're dealing with or you is not having that. It's almost like you're approaching it in a very controlled way. You're like, no, you're not going to come at with me with some drama. You're going to stop that, and, you're going to cut it off quick, right? But I do think that it is going to be damage control, and it's going to be managing it. I think in order to stay in the relationship with this person, it is going to take some time, and it's going to, situations are going to continue to crop up that you're going to have to squelch. Like as drama crops up, you're going to have to, cut it at the quick each time, and that's going to be something, it's going to be regular maintenance. It is going to be something that you're going to have to manage, and you're going to have to be real diligent. Either that or your person is going to have to be real diligent in handling in the future. Now, if you do that work, I do think this is quite beautiful. It says receiving a gift. So I do kind of think that maybe you will get a reward for your hard work. Again, the Guardian of Wands, she knows her own worth, and she's a very strong person. She's a very warm person. I think if you are dealing with someone who's either going through some kind of, drama with someone else that they can't immediately separate themselves from, I think you'll be a supportive partner. I think you will help this person, manage and keep in check whatever, unnecessary conflict is brought about from this situation. And I think for that effort, for you standing by this person and helping them through this and keeping yourself level, keeping your self-confidence intact, I do think that you'll get a gift from this. It could potentially be a gift of the relationship itself. No relationships are easy. All of them take work, regardless of the situation, whether someone's single, whether someone's been married before. But I do think that tells me that there's rewards to be had by handling this. And again, with the Six of Pentacles, you don't know which coin is going into which nest. I think it will be fair, because there's scales, there's balance here. And I think it will be balanced. And as long as you're balanced, you'll reap the rewards of all of that hard work. But well, guys, so that was the Six of Pentacles. I knew that was kind of, I always joke, this is not my strongest card. I still kind of, when the six comes up in a read, I always kind of, cock my head to the side and kind of look at it like, oh gosh, it's because it is so multifaceted. It has a lot. It's very interpretable. But I hope you enjoyed, and I hope that brought you some insight. If you like the content of my channel with the How to Tarots and the pick piles, I would be very honored if you'd like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you can join me again on Saturday. We do the weekly energy card reading, and I hope you have a good week, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.